So, let's just be honest here. Preseason football isn't for everyone. It's not glamorous. It's not filled with the top-tier highlight plays from your stars. And frankly, most fans don't even want to sit through 4 quarters of guys fighting just to make the practice squad. And that's totally fair. But for those of you who don't have the time, or frankly the patience, to sit through a full preseason game, don't worry. That's why we're here. We've got you covered. After every Cowboys preseason matchup, we're going to break it down. The winners, the losers, the what the hell was that moments, and everything in between. Hopefully, as the games go on, we'll get more winners than we did in Week 1, because that opening game, yeah, that was rough. And shout out to everyone who's showing love in the comments or dropping those super thanks. Empire we are, you're already in for the Week 2 drawing. That $5 support goes a long way. Everyone who contributed last week was automatically in the mix too. And by the way, if you're wondering who took home that prize, that was William. Big win. Appreciate every single one of you keeping this community alive and well. Let's dive into what's really going on though, because this team, this front office, is always giving us something to talk about. Whether it's questionable signings, lackluster depth, or just good old-fashioned fan frustration, the Cowboys always keep it interesting. Case in point, the Malik Davis situation. Some fans saw the signing and immediately rolled their eyes. Comments like, another recycled player? Really? Or why are we bringing back trash instead of developing someone new? Flooded in. And hey, on the surface, it's a fair reaction. But let's take a step back here. This wasn't some bold move meant to shake up the roster. It was a plug-in, a quick fix, a player who already knows the system, who can suit up on short notice and help patch up a serious depth issue. That's it. This was not about someone pushing for a starting role. It was about getting through the week. And if we're being fair, Malik actually played pretty well in that preseason game. Not spectacular, but solid. So yeah, if you grade the move relative to what it was meant to be, you give an A. But if you're looking at it like it's a franchise-altering decision, that's not the scale this one belongs on. Now, let's pivot to the drama that never seems to go away. Micah Parsons and his looming extension. Fans are frustrated, and for good reason. One viewer said it best. At some point, this whole thing is going to be over, and we'll look back on it and think how stupid it was that it dragged on this long. Couldn't agree more. Jerry Jones, for all his business acumen, sometimes gets way too caught up in winning the deal rather than winning football games. And when you try to win the deal and end up waiting too long, more often than not, you lose both. That's what people are afraid of here. And let's just address the elephant in the room. The Cowboys can afford to pay Micah. Don't let the cap space numbers fool you. You see people saying, well, we only have $32 million left. Micah's going to want 40. Yeah. And you know how contracts work? You create cap space by signing players like Micah to long-term deals. These contracts are always backloaded. Year 1 is light. Then it ramps up gradually. You can spread the hit, move money around, and open up space in the process. The team knows this. They've done it before. And if they wanted to lock him in today, they absolutely could. So the delay? That's not about money. That's about negotiation, ego, leverage, everything but what happens on the field. And speaking of frustrations with the front office, let's talk about the Jones family. It feels like every year we go through the same cycle. Lack of aggression, late decisions, patchwork fixes. One fan nailed it with this comment. When are we going to get a playable defensive tackle or cornerback? And honestly, that question hits harder than it should. The Cowboys had the exact same issues last year and waited until mid-August to make a move. Remember? They went out and picked up guys like Linval Joseph late in the game. Some of those signings worked. Some didn't. But why are we always waiting until the last minute? Don't be surprised if we're on the same path again. 2 weeks from now, we might be having the same conversation. Well, they finally added someone, but why did it take so long? That's just how they operate, and fans are tired of it. There's this constant theme of reacting instead of preparing. It's frustrating because the window is open. The core of this team is right there. But time is ticking. Let's shift gears for a second, because some of y'all are dropping some spicy trade suggestions. Like Christopher, who jokingly suggested trading a future 4th-rounder for Panthers wide receiver TJ Luther to pair with Jonathan Mingo. Look, that's not happening, but I respect the creativity. Luther had a couple nice moments in preseason, but we all know the Cowboys aren't pulling that trigger. Now, on the topic of contracts and cap space, some of you asked about Spotrac and over the cap. Are those numbers legit? Short answer, yes. Long answer, they're accurate, but context matters. Just because a player shows a big cap hit doesn't mean that's what's actually hurting the team. Most big contracts are structured to minimize year-one impact. And extensions? They're designed to create space, not eat it up. So if someone says, we can't afford Micah, you can go ahead and toss that narrative in the trash. They absolutely can. Back to the field, though. Let's talk about the running back room. One fan said they're excited to see Jaden Blue separate himself from Sanders by midseason, and that Hay and Williams could become a solid 1-2 punch. I like the optimism, but I'm still a little concerned. Sanders? We don't know how much he's got left in the tank. Williams? Banged up. Jaden Blue? Looks explosive, sure, but can he take on the load consistently? And Lupke? He's more of a fullback. This group might be serviceable, but unless someone steps up in a big way, we're talking about a unit that's going to need help from the passing game to move the chains. Then there's Tyler Booker. Where's he at in terms of development? Fans haven't heard much since rookie minicamp, and that silence is making people nervous. Is he another Tyler Guyton situation waiting to happen? I don't think so. They're built differently, and their strengths don't really overlap. Booker has shown some flashes, especially in the run game. The joint practices against the Rams gave us a bit of insight, and he held up decently. Not perfect, but decent. Speed rushers might be an issue for him, but I don't see the same red flags we saw with Guyton. He needs game reps, though, and not just against practice squad guys. We need to see him in preseason week 2, plain and simple. On that note, how confident are you in Tyler Booker right now? Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is that disastrous Chaz Green game, and 10 is peak Zach Martin. I'd say Booker is sitting at about a 6 or 7. Could go either way. Time will tell. Also, fans are wondering about Micah Parsons' status for week 1. Will he suit up against Philly? I think he will. I'd be shocked if he gave up over $1 million in game checks over this holdout. That just doesn't seem likely. The man wants to play. He's intense. He's competitive. And if the deal doesn't get done by then, he'll still be on the field. And finally, let's talk about Stephon Gilmore. Should the Cowboys bring him back before the season starts? That move makes too much sense. Veteran presence, fills a major need, and won't cost the moon. The cornerback depth is shaky right now, and you need someone who can hold his own against elite receivers. So yeah, I do it in a heartbeat. And judging by the comments, a lot of fans are on the same page. Let's stick with this Gilmore conversation for a minute, because it's not just about bringing in a big name. It's about filling a gaping hole in a defense that, on paper, looks like it's a couple injuries away from falling apart at corner. Fans keep asking, why wait? And that's exactly the question. You have the money. You have the need. Gilmore knows the system. He's already been here. It wouldn't be some complicated onboarding. This is one of those rare free agent moves that's both logical and low risk. So why the hesitation? Maybe it's pride. Maybe it's the front office still thinking there's a breakout performance coming from someone already on the roster. But if you watch that Rams joint practice, or worse, the preseason opener, you know that the secondary isn't ready to face elite talent. And if you've got any aspirations beyond a wild card appearance, you can't afford to leave that part of your defense exposed. One injury to Trayvon Diggs or Darren Bland, and suddenly you're throwing practice squad bodies out there against A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, or whoever else is lined up in January. That's not sustainable. Now let's talk about what we saw in that Rams joint practice, because it told us a lot more than people think. Yes, it's a practice, but when you've got your starting quarterback and number 1 wide receiver carving up another team's defense, that matters. Dak and CD were cooking out there. Not just routine completions, actual connection, timing, sharp routes, leadership, the whole thing. This is exactly the kind of chemistry you want to see before week 1. But right when you start to feel good about the offense, reality comes crashing down with a cold splash of truth. The offensive line. They need work. And that's not just preseason jitters. That's a legitimate concern. Jared Verse made that unit look silly. He dominated. The kind of domination that reminds you how quickly a drive can die if one guy on your line can't hold up. The O-line isn't hopeless, but sure isn't polished right now. If you're going to lean on Dak this season, especially if the run game isn't elite, you need better play in the trenches. Which brings us to the ground game. If you were hoping for a resurgence this preseason, I've got bad news. It's not there. The running backs didn't show much. The offensive line didn't open many holes. The run defense didn't stop anything either. So we're sitting here watching both sides of the line of scrimmage struggle to assert dominance. That's a problem. And that's why, for fans like William Cook, the answer is simple. Go sign Gilmore. Solidify the back in while you figure everything else out. If the front seven's going to take time to gel, and the offense needs another 2 or 3 weeks to get in rhythm, at least give yourself a reliable secondary to stop the bleeding. Because once the games start counting, there's no room for "we're still figuring it out." But then someone inevitably brings up the idea of a big splash move. Like, hey, why not trade for Breece Hall? And look, I get it. It sounds fun. It looks bold. But it's also just not realistic, at least not right now. The Jets aren't giving up on him yet. And even if they were, the Cowboys aren't exactly known for making aggressive mid-season trades. That's just not their style. They like to patch, not swing. Now, if we're talking about the trade deadline, that's a different story. If the Jets start off poorly, if Hall isn't being used, or if there's a contract issue bubbling under the surface, then yeah, circle back. But right now, let's be honest. It's just Twitter talk. Fun for fans, but it's not grounded in anything real. And honestly, the Cowboys have bigger things to worry about than fishing for luxury pieces. They need to fix what's broken before they start shopping for new toys. And you want to talk about what's broken? Let's talk about preseason reps. Every year, we see teams approach it differently. Some let their starters play a few drives. Others shut them down entirely. And fans are split. Some say, hey, look at the Chiefs. They play their guys. They win Super Bowls. Others say, we played Romo, and it ended his career. There's no clear-cut answer. But what we can say is this. If you're not going to play Dak or CD or Micah in the preseason, then you better be playing guys like Tyler Booker, like Marshawn Nealand, like your young interior linemen and rotational pass rushers. These guys need reps. Real, live, meaningful reps, not just walkthroughs or joint practices. You don't develop players by protecting them. You develop them by putting them in uncomfortable situations and letting them figure out. Now, let's revisit the whole starter or no starter argument one more time, because both sides actually make the same point without realizing it. If you're too scared to let your quarterback take 15 snaps in preseason because you're worried he might get hurt, then don't you have a bigger problem with your depth or protection? And on the flip side, if those 15 snaps are the difference between your offense being ready or not for the regular season, that's also a problem. You shouldn't need a quarter of meaningless football to be prepared for week 1. Either your system works or it doesn't. Either your players are ready or they're not. The trauma of losing Romo is real. Cowboys fans remember exactly where they were when he went down. But that can't dictate every preseason decision forever. It's been almost a decade. At some point, the team has to balance risk with preparation. Because the truth is, you can't keep everyone in bubble wrap and expect to hit the ground running in September. The league doesn't work like that. So what does that leave us? A team with potential. A team with holes. A fan base that's impatient and rightfully frustrated. And a front office that's still hesitating to make the moves that could take this team from good to great. The preseason has already exposed some flaws. Some expected, some not. The next few weeks are critical. Whether it's signing a vet, adjusting the rotation, or simply getting guys healthy, something has to give. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers have been circulating in the NFL world that Kupp, the standout wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, might be packing his bags for a shocking move to the Dallas Cowboys. Sources close to the situation suggest that negotiations have quietly advanced behind the scenes, sparking a frenzy among fans and analysts alike who are trying to gauge the likelihood of such a blockbuster transfer. The idea of Kupp leaving the Rams, a team that has relied heavily on his precise route running and clutch performances, sends shivers through the league, with speculation suggesting that Dallas sees him as the missing puzzle piece to elevate their passing game to an elite level. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the chatter among insiders hints at serious discussions that could redefine the NFC landscape. Fans in Dallas are reportedly ecstatic at the mere possibility of seeing Kupp don the Cowboys silver and blue, imagining the dynamic connection he could form with the team's quarterback and the kind of explosive plays that might light up the AT&T Stadium week after week. Analysts are already debating how Kupp's arrival might shift defensive strategies across the league, with teams scrambling to prepare for the potential nightmare scenario of Kupp catching passes in Cowboys territory on a weekly basis, redefining their offensive schemes and forcing rival teams to rethink coverages, potentially even prompting personnel changes. Meanwhile, the Rams fan base is left in a state of anxious anticipation, unsure whether the rumors represent a fleeting fantasy or a genuine front office maneuver. Cooper Kupp has been an integral component of Los Angeles' offensive identity, and the prospect of his departure raises questions about the team's long-term strategy, draft priorities, and how they will attempt to replace a receiver of his caliber. Sources suggest that the Cowboys' allure, including the team's storied history, massive market, and strong quarterback situation, could be significant factors in swaying Kupp should he be considering options beyond Los Angeles. The rumor mill paints a picture of a player weighing legacy, competitive aspirations, and personal ambitions, a scenario that sparks intense debates on sports talk shows and social media platforms, with speculation only amplifying as insiders drop cryptic hints. The NFL community is buzzing over the possibilities, with pundits analyzing how the Cowboys could retool their offense around Kupp, potentially creating mismatches that could dominate highlight reels and fantasy football discussions for years to come. Every passing day without confirmation only heightens the suspense, turning every public appearance, interview, and social media post from Kupp into a potential clue about the looming transfer, and leaving fans on both coasts holding their collective breath for the next development in what could become one of the most talked about moves in recent league history, possibly altering playoff projections and power rankings dramatically. Reports suggest that negotiations between Kupp and the Cowboys have been handled with a level of discretion typical of high-stakes NFL dealings, where secrecy can prevent competing teams from interfering and maintain leverage during contract discussions. While the financial specifics remain undisclosed, insiders hint that the Cowboys are prepared to offer a deal that combines lucrative guarantees with performance incentives, appealing to Kupp's competitive drive and his desire to secure his place among the league's elite receivers. Observers note that this kind of move could be seen as a statement from Dallas front office, signaling their intent to aggressively pursue top-tier talent and create a team capable of contending at the highest level, while simultaneously sending shockwaves through the NFC as rival teams scramble to adjust their defensive schematics. The conversation extends beyond contract numbers, touching on legacy considerations, championship aspirations, and how Kupp might fit into a different offensive philosophy, potentially redefining his role and the way the Cowboys utilize their wide receiver core. Analysts are weighing every scenario. Would Kupp elevate Dak Prescott's passing game? Could he thrive in a system historically different from the Rams? Would defenses struggle to contain a player with his combination of route precision, reliable hands, and proven clutch performance? Speculation alone fuels a continuous cycle of debate and discussion, with insider reports teasing progress, leaks prompting media frenzy, and the collective imagination of football enthusiasts crafting potential highlight reels that may soon become reality if the deal materializes, creating a scenario that could dominate the headlines throughout the offseason. The potential shift of Cooper Kupp to the Dallas Cowboys also carries ramifications that extend far beyond a single team's offensive setup, impacting the broader strategic landscape of the NFL. Defensive coordinators across the league are rumored to be re-evaluating their coverage schemes, imagining how to contain a receiver with Kupp's precision and consistency when paired with the Cowboys' passing approach. The ripple effects touch draft strategies, as teams anticipate that the Cowboys might allocate additional resources to maximize Kupp's impact, forcing rivals to adapt or risk falling behind. Betting markets, fantasy leagues, and social media narratives have already begun reacting to the speculation, with every rumor or cryptic comment interpreted as potential confirmation of a seismic league shift. The Cowboys' offensive playbook could be dramatically altered to center around Kupp, leveraging his route-running mastery, ability to gain yards after the catch, and chemistry with the quarterback, creating new mismatches that put opponents on high alert. Every analyst seems to have an opinion, projecting touchdown totals, yards per game, and potential highlight reel catches, while fans eagerly discuss jerseys, stadium chants, and the imagined atmosphere of home games. The mere whisper of Kupp joining Dallas has generated a wave of excitement, fear, and anticipation, producing a scenario where the Cowboys could simultaneously improve their offense and become the focal point of intense media scrutiny, turning every game into a must-watch spectacle while keeping the rumor mill alive with endless debates, hypotheticals, and speculative breakdowns of how one elite player might alter the trajectory of a storied franchise and the NFC hierarchy in unpredictable ways. Ultimately, the swirling rumors about Kupp joining the Dallas Cowboys encapsulate the drama, speculation, and anticipation that define the NFL offseason, capturing the imagination of fans and commentators alike. While no confirmation has emerged, the chatter alone has ignited a narrative that transcends statistics and game performance, focusing instead on the potential transformative effect of such a move on a franchise and the league as a whole. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.